but the message is same. Like, it's, for example, if one Quran is saying, give zakah, it's essential. The other one says the same thing. It says prayer. The other one says the same thing. And we have tafsirs. We have
hold on, but let me stop you, Dawa. What you just said is literally the opposite of what one of your top scholars who has studied the Qurans. I would assume that this man hold on, stop. Hang on.
You went on like a long. That's I listened to you. So I'm saying, okay, what you're saying,
right? But that what I'm trying to tell you, right? What I'm trying to tell you, what the reason I'm stopping you, I'm not trying to be a jerk. The reason I'm stopping you is because your very first statement said essentially that what Shabir Ali said was wrong.
So I don't think that the Quran, what we have today, is 100% perfect.
Okay.
Because perfection is subjective.
Okay.
Right. So for a Muslim, it's perfect, but for non-Muslim, for you, it's imperfect.
But how could it be perfect? That's a logical inconsistency. How can something be perfect and imperfect simultaneously? That doesn't make sense. Either it is or it's not.
Yeah, it is subjective. If you understand Islam, if you become Muslim and you read Quran, you realize that for Islam is perfect. But if you just if you're reading it as a book, like a storybook, then it's not perfect.
Okay. So here's the thing, brother. Again, it doesn't matter if I become a Muslim, right? Appealing to a hypothetical scenario doesn't help explain how it could be perfect to Muslims, but imperfect to the rest of the world. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Because I can give you an example. How is it perfect for Muslim?
Give me one example. Give me one example.
Okay, it has the complete way of life.
What do you mean by that?
It has everything you need to get to heaven.
Such as
Islam.
Okay, such as what?
It mentions that you have to pray. It mentions that you have to lower your gaze. It mentions that you have to follow Prophet Muhammad's advice and all those. There's a lot of things like zakat and like fasting and prayers and all that.
Mm-hmm. But how does that prove perfection? That's just a set of instructions. Where anywhere in that is that giving me perfection? Even if I'm sorry to tell you, brother, but I know my mindset. Even as a person, being the person that I am, and I have met Muslims who are much more stubborn than I am, right? The problem is that no matter what you just gave me, in no way is going to allow me to look at the Quran as perfection. But what I'm talking about more than, because what you're giving me is a list of things that the Quran tells you to do. Not only does that not even begin to approach the topic of perfection, my question is very simple. Is you have been honest, and I really do appreciate that. From the very beginning, you didn't do the sneako, you didn't do the Ali Dawa, you said straight out, I don't believe it's perfect, right? So I appreciate that. But then you kind of shifted a little. You're like, well, it is perfect. It's just perfect to us and not to you. To me, I'm sorry. And I'm in no way trying to be disrespectful, but that's a cop-out, right? Because when you say that Islam has everything you need to get to heaven, that's blatantly false. What Islam gives you from the standpoint that I'm at is a list of rituals, right? And in a lot of ways, it's fear-based obedience, but it has absolutely zero assurance of salvation. Right? It's just a treadmill of works with no finish line. And then you'll say that you need to pray 5 times a day. You say that you need to lower your gaze. You say that you need to follow Muhammad's advice, right? You need to give zakat. You need to fast during Ramadan. And then maybe, if Allah feels like it, he'll decide to let you in. That's not a path to heaven, my brother. That's literally a spiritual lottery. Okay?
It doesn't say, I'm sorry, just to interrupt you. That's fine. Not the point that if Allah feels like it. It says Allah is all just. So if you follow that, then you will get to heaven. The point is, it's about your niyyah, like what's inside your heart. So if let's say you're, looking at women and you're having lust while you're lowering your gaze. So even lowering gaze, you're not going to get to heaven. So you have to be perfect from inside and outside.
Okay.
So those instructions are in Quran.
Okay. Hold on a second, brother. Hold on. Because first of all, you know better than anybody that there's no such thing as a perfect person, right? Everybody's a sinner. Yeah. Everybody sins. So there's no such thing as a perfect person. There's all those things that you have named. I'm sure that those are things that you have probably done, right? So let me ask you a question. If you're saying that you have to be perfect, and that's the way for you to get into heaven, then automatically you have disqualified yourself, myself, Mike, and everybody else, because there's no such thing as perfection. Nobody. I know a lot of Muslims, I know a lot of Christians, not a single one of them fits under the criterion of perfection. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to set this up for you a different way. Okay. Now, this was what I introduced in the beginning. It's from my debate brief. It's basically 2 lines. Okay. And I want you to answer this. Have you ever heard of Dr. Shabir Ali?
Well, I did, but can I answer your question, what you said before, about that, you're not perfect man, so you can never be in heaven? Can I answer that question? Because that's actually in Quran, how being imperfect, you can still get to heaven. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay.
Can I answer the question before we continue?
Go ahead. Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it says that by you, that's why we pray 5 times a day, because we sin so much that, each prayer is a asking God for forgiveness. So God says in Quran, even if you're imperfect, all your imperfections will be converted into, all your good deeds, right? So that's why we have to pray. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. That's
and it's fine. So what happens if you sin 10 seconds after your 5th prayer and you go to sleep and you die?
Depends. See, that's also described. There's a Guna al-Kabir, like a bigger sin and smaller sin. If you do smaller sins, but you have so many good deeds, you get to heaven. But that's ultimately God's to decide, because he's ultimate judge, and he's all just. So he will be judging everybody. In Quran, it says that according to their deeds and niyah.
So it's works based. So you're essentially you're confirming what I said. You're repeating a lot of the same thing, which is that it's works based. It's all based on your work, right? It's all based on what the Quran says for you to do. Okay, perfect. Sure. So here's my question then. If the Quran is a perfect way to get to heaven, then why do Muslim sects all around the world have different versions of the Quran, some of which have different textual variants and different meanings? Which one are you supposed to follow?
So that's why initially I said that it's not perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. The text itself, because it is still written by human beings.
So Dawa, that's exactly the point. So then if that's the case, hold on. Okay. If that is the case, then there's no way for you to know for sure if you are following the Quran that is written, that is actually God's word. There is no way for you to know that the one that you have is the one that is giving you the correct instruction to enter into heaven. Now, I do appreciate the fact that you were honest when you came in. And I do appreciate the fact that you are not being disingenuous, right? I really do appreciate that, without a doubt. I love that you are being the way that you are being, and I really thank you for that. However, everything that you said, honestly, respectfully, is inconsequential, because you're telling me the Quran says X, Y, and Z, but we have shown that the Quran doesn't even have the same message across its different versions. And this is why I always laugh when Muslims try to say things like, oh, well, the Bible has been corrupted, because that lie has been debunked over the centuries. Over the centuries, it has been debunked. But then you look at the different Qurans, and even Arabic linguists say, yeah, this Quran is talking about one thing, and this other Quran is saying something completely different. And it has a different meaning. It's not about different accents. It's not about different diacritical marks. It's about different meaning. That's why I was asking you who Dr. Shabir Ali is, because he said, and quote, if the Quran is perfectly preserved, he admitted that, I'm sorry, it wasn't a quote. He admitted that most Muslims today read the 1924 Egyptian edition rather than a single unchanged text from the time of Muhammad. Now, that's why I mentioned Sneeko earlier, because the funny part was that Sneeko claimed that there was only one version of the Quran, which many Muslims have come on this show and said. So then, if there's only one version of the Quran, how do you explain the existence of multiple Qurans used around the world, such as the Warsh in North Africa and the Hafs in the Middle East, right? And most importantly, why did Dr. Shabir Ali say that there are variations in the Quran used in different regions? Doesn't that prove that the text has been altered, or at least transmitted differently? Because if there are different Qurans being used today, and each claim to be true, the true unchanged word of God, how can they all be correct if they have different words, spellings, and even meanings?
Okay, with that.
Yeah.
So basically, I read the different quote unquote versions is Quran, right? But the message is same. Like, it's, for example, if one Quran is saying, give zakah, it's essential. The other one says the same thing. It says prayer. The other one says the same thing. And we have tafsirs. We have
but let me stop you, Dawa. What you just said is literally the opposite of what one of your top scholars who has studied the Qurans. I would assume that this man hold on, stop. Hang on.
You went on like a long. That's I listened to you. So I'm saying, okay, what you're saying,
right? But that what I'm trying to tell you, right? What I'm trying to tell you, what the reason I'm stopping you, I'm not trying to be a jerk. The reason I'm stopping you is because your very first statement said essentially that what Shabir Ali said was wrong. So I'll repeat it for you. Dr. Shabir Ali openly says early manuscripts like the Sana'a manuscript contain tons of variants. If there are different Qurans being used today, each claim to be true and the unchanged word of Allah, how can they all be correct if they have different words, spellings, and even meanings? So here, that's a part that we're going to focus on, you and I. Because what you just said was you just parroted back to me what almost every other Muslim has said to me on this channel, which is a complete lie, because through true scholarship, we have already established that what you just said is false. It is not the same. It is not the same meaning, because one of your top scholars, a man who has been studying the Quran and its variants for decades, the man has literally studied the Quran longer than I have been alive. And he is saying, along with many other Muslim scholars, that they are not the same. So the reason I'm stopping you is because the first thing that you said was the very opposite of what he said.
Yeah, but see, what you're trying to tell me, right, is similar to somebody would say that there's textual variants in Bible, right? You're using certain words that are, when it's to you, you're able to understand it, but when it's about Quran, you're not able to understand.
I am able to understand it because the reason that I'm saying what I'm saying,
differences.
The reason that I'm saying what I'm saying and the reason that I made it clear to you is because you can look at as many translations as you want for biblical manuscripts and biblical languages. There's no two manuscripts that you're going to hold together that one says something completely different than what the other one says. This is why the Bible does not apply, because they have done. First of all, the Bible has existed since long before. Hold up, Dawa. Stop. I'm trying to explain to you, and I'm trying to give you the credit. So he left. I don't know why he left, but here's the thing, guys. When you come in, the first thing you want to do is try to use the Bible. Understand that the Bible has survived scrutiny for much longer, and I mean absolutely much longer than the Quran has. The Quran hasn't even survived scrutiny since its conception. This is what I keep trying to tell you guys. And then, you get mad and you leave, and I understand that you're mad. You don't like what I'm telling you. But when it comes down to it, it doesn't matter if you guys like what I'm telling you. The question is very clear. And look, we didn't even make it through halfway through the debate brief, and the guy already left because he's mad. If I made it clear to you that your scholar says that what you said is a lie, I'm not going to continue to listen to you without any proof whatsoever when you're going to say, hey, but it doesn't matter that there's variants because they're all the same. No, they are not the same. Your own scholar says that they are not the same. How can you call the Quran a miracle preservation that if even people like Dr. Shabir Ali openly say that manuscripts like the Sana'a manuscript contain tons of variants, and that is textual variants that change meaning? We're not talking about spelling errors or syntactual errors, which even people of the Bible, which even people like Bruce Metzger and Bart Ehrman have made it clear don't even remotely change the message of the Bible, which is unlike the manuscripts of the Quran, which do change the meaning of it, right? This is the dilemma of the Quran. This is the dilemma that the internet is causing for Islam. And the more you dig, the more you're going to find. And it's unfortunate, but it's true. And it's my job to bring it to you.